for you.
Hello?
Hello, Jughead. This is Archie. Come over right away. It's a matter of life or death.
Oh, relax, Archie.
Attention, all true believers. Marvel Comics is on the air.
A friend of the unfortunate, enemy of criminals. In reality, Dan Garrett, a rookie patrolman, loved by everyone but suspected by none of being the Blue Beetle.
Boys and girls, your attention, please. Presenting a new exciting radio program featuring the thrilling adventures of an amazing and incredible personality. Faster than an airplane, more powerful than a locomotive, impervious to bullets.
Up in the sky, look!
It's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman!
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Everybody. I see that Mr. Nope is on. Thank you for being just a for us supporter. I see you on there being one of our special, I don't know, what do we call them? I feel like they're the greenies because their name.
You had a name, but I haven't remembered what it is in so long I've forgotten. So we'll come up with a new name for those people. Everybody in the chat has been a subscriber of our channel, a member of our channel at one point or another. And because, we don't do a ton of stuff with that like we should, I don't begrudge anybody not doing it anymore. But I appreciate those of you who do. So, real fast, guys. I told you I would tell you about something in a minute. I'm trying a thing, and Jay can be mad at me later. I do not care. We have set up in the chat on YouTube a new thing that we have unlocked on our YouTube, which is super chat goals. So here's the deal, y'all. If you send a super chat for any amount of money, I don't care how much, any amount. If we get 5 super chats in the next hour, Jay and I will launch our new fun piece of content called the Kyle and Jay Q&A, where we will give A's to your Q's.
Can we ask anything?
No, otherwise it'd be an AMA.
Oh.
No, it's a new thing we're talking about doing, we're kicking around doing, which is similar to Jay's world-famous Hydra Hangouts that he does on Saturday night. We promise they will not be 95 hours long like Jay's are, but just because at some point we both have to sleep. But we will be doing a hangout here on the EXP immediately following Comic Collectibles tomorrow night if we get 5 super chats before this show ends.
For any amount of monies?
See?
Corey's down for that one.
Corey Russ is like, see, I want Kyle and Jay to have to spend more time talking about nerd stuff. And we want to do that for you. So shout out, help us out. All that money just goes towards helping to fund the experience and helping us keep our lights on, keep our wheels turning. And in the case of Jay, keep Jenna from beating the crap out of him for spending more time on the air with me. So should we get to the books? Because I read a whole mountain of books today.
Ooh, let's talk about mountains of books.
Uh-huh. Oh, so you start with this one, which was a mountain in and of itself. This book was long. But it was really good. Here's the thing I will say sometimes the Tiny Onion books are maybe too big of an onion. This book had so many layers that I felt like Shrek. We start off here with the Book of Cutter, which, by the way, is one of the spin-off sort of one-shot mini-series off of Something is Killing the Children. And this whole book is narrated by like Tomorrow Never Dies era. Who was that guy who played James Bond? Pierce Brosnan.
Okay.
Or Tim Curry, at peak Tim Curry, where it's got that real thick kind of English accent going for it. But our main character, who you see right there on the cover, is in England training at the House of Cutter, which is one of the more predominant houses in the Order of St. George. And this gets a little like weavy, wivey, timey-wimey. Like, how does this spider web actually spider? For me, and I will be honest, the thing that took me out of this book the most was there were like 6-page runs where it's just like encyclopedia entries about these things. So like you just get hooked on some of the mystery that the House of Slaughter is trying to figure out. By sending her to be trained by the House of Cutter. And then it's just like, according to Webster's Encyclopedia, blah, 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 blah. It's like, oh. And then you get back to the really good stuff. And then it'd be like, an encyclopedia on England. And I'm like, it's a place. Got it. Don't need more than that. But it'd be 5 pages. Now, I will say this. If you are trying to consume the entire mythos that is Something is Killing the Children, you absolutely need those pages, right? So I have no sort of, what's the word for it, problem with them, but it was just like, bruh, I had a long night and long day. Can we just watch her kill some stuff now, please? And there wasn't a lot of killing in this book. Like, I expect there to be a lot of killing in these books, and there wasn't. There was a lot of fencing. But it's not really about fencing, is it? This was great. I really enjoyed this. But like I said, there were points where it's like my ADHD and need for a second energy drink today became overwhelmed by the amount of information James Tynion was trying to give us.
I have questions. Okay, so for most of Something is Killing the Children, all of the Order of St. George has cool bandanas that cover the bottom half of their face. And these guys have top of face bandana things. Is there a reason?
Not just top of face.
Oh.
They have multicolors that I have not seen before.
Uh-oh.
And they mean something different. Like, white masks are one type of member. Black masks are a different type of member. Red masks are different. Violet masks, orange masks, blue masks. They're all different. And they all serve different roles inside the order, right? Like, red masks are kind of like they're like minders. They're the house mothers. They're the ones who kind of keep order, and they kind of watch over the hunters. White masks are hunters that hunt primarily for noble purposes, whereas black masks have a little bit less nobility. They're just doing a job. Violet masks are, above everybody. Like, and it just turns into a whole, like, there's a hierarchy inside the Court of St. George, right? Or the Order of St. George. And the masks represent certain things. And the different types of masks represent the different houses and training levels that you've achieved. So in some level, the masks are like belts in martial arts, right? Mm-hmm. I will say this. There is definitely a certain color mask I would want to be now. And it's not one we've had a lot of interaction with.
Okay. Yeah.
But
so
you get
is
introduced to him
the
in this
red
book.
mask there giving you the bottom of his face, giving you big time Cranston vibes, or is it just me?
No, because in the book the chin's a little bit more.
More pointy.
Yeah.
I was talking about the
But
nice, like no lips.
right.
That was just really cool.
Think Alan Cumming.
Okay.
And I'll be honest, the voice sounds vaguely like that, right? Where it's just thick and rich, and you can never tell how serious they're being or not. It's like that.
Corey says there's not enough killing, so it's a nap book.
No, not at all. It's a super important book in the mythos of something that's killing the children. I just got like 3.5 hours of sleep last night, so it was hard for every book not to be a nap book.
All right, Corey, this one's got lots of killing in it. How's that? So it's Steve Orlando, so you know it's going to be really good. This one's kind of a cool premise. It starts you out in old London, and I took a trip to London this last year, so it's a little more impactful for me, maybe, or anyone that's traveled there and maybe taken the Jack the Ripper tour, because you'll recognize some of those spaces, which makes it extra scary. Yeah. And also, if you had a really, really good tour guide, they showed you the actual murder pictures, which aren't published very often, where they have like the entrails slung over one shoulder, which is pretty gruesome. But so this one is primarily in that era of London. The guy you see there that looks kind of dandyish, he is a detective that is trying to solve some very gruesome murdery things. And the big twist in this book, which I don't think is a secret, so I'll just tell you because I think it's the reason why you would actually read this book to know this, is that there is a, for lack of a better way to call it, a tunnel from modernish era through to this time period. So if you go through the tunnel, you travel through time just to this period. And it's fairly normal, I guess. There are people that are kind of like just time tourists. They're supposed to not like, be obvious or anything. But one of those time tourists has been murdified in the Jack the Ripper way. So a modern detective comes to come and help this older detective try to figure out what's up. And it's really, really cool. The art is just like on the cover, really detailed, really, it's like dark and gritty and all those things you want from that era London. And like the dresses are really awesome. It does have Ladies of the Night as one of its big themes, but of course that was integral to the Jack the Ripper storyline. So this is a nice long first issue. Is really great. If you like the spook, like murder mystery, you will really dig this one.
I'm trying to figure out what I know Alessandro Oliveri from. Because when I looked them up, this is the only title in their credit on the internet.
Really?
But I know that name. And maybe it was just an art friend of mine was like, you should be watching for this person. Or maybe there was a book that was slated to come out from them that never did. I just don't know. But that name is someone that I have been aware of that I'm trying to figure out from whom. Maybe that's one of those that, our friends like Joe Pruitt and some of those guys had put me onto in the old days.
Maybe.
We'll see.
Yeah, Triple B. I think you'd really like this one.
Mm-hmm. Remember, guys, on YouTube's, we have a goal, 5 super chats of any amount of money during the next hour to unlock the new Kyle and Jay's Q&A tomorrow night at 8:00 Eastern.
Corey's got us started, so.
Yes, Corey's got us started. We're down to 4. We need 3. We need 4 more. All right, so check it out. Calavera PI. I had been largely on the fence with this book after issue 2. The dialect switching between Spanish and English was making this really hard for me to read. It has gotten, in this issue, it is significantly different and significantly better, in my opinion. And part of that is in this issue more than the last one, they give you context clues in the panels to the Spanish, whereas in the past that wasn't really the case. This book is a big action sequence with our skull-based detective Calavera and people we were dealing with at the end of issue 2. Like, you remember, end of issue 2, there's a kidnapping, and they're trying to get the kid back. Well, this is sort of the action sequence that follows that, but it also sort of leads into an understanding that Calavera may not be the only supernatural thing supernaturaling in this book. So I think that's an important fact. That's an important thing that we learn in this book. And it's not really a spoiler when I say it that way, right? Like, there's more supernatural than we thought.
It'd be weird if he was the only thing. Like,
right,
people react to him in a different way. If, oh, look, there's a skull man.
Right. It certainly would be a different thing if he was the only supernatural thing. But you're trying to understand that there's maybe a little bit of occultism. There's maybe a little bit of dark magic and ritual magic involved here. And you're beginning to wonder, is he here because of altruistic reasons? Is he collateral damage from some of this other stuff that's happening? Or is he here because he's the only one who can stop the other madness that's happening? So it's interesting to see. It's interesting to look at. Marco Finnegan, who is both writing and drawing this, is doing a great job. I do think the art takes a turn in this book for the better from the previous issues. Thank you, Mick, too. Previous issues were a little bit almost Mignola-esque, which isn't a bad thing. But that thing where, like, Mike Mignola lets your imagination suss out the details, that was what Marco Finnegan was doing. And in this book, he fills them in a little bit more. So, shout out to Marco and to Oni Press. If you watched FOC, if you watched Order Up on Friday, we had Torma from Oni Press on, and we talked a little bit about this book and some others that I'm going to read, that I read this week, that I'm going to talk about later. So I was very, very happy that issue 3 was really good. Thank you, Make 2. We are down to 3 left. 3 super chats of any amount of money. Unlock the new Jay and Kyle show. Oh, will it be during Triple B's live? Well, we were just taking the slot that was formerly occupied by 360 Comics, Mr. Nope. We will probably go longer than Triple B unless Triple B decides to do a marathon, but still. Maybe we'll have Triple B join us.
How cool would that be? All right, X-Men. Feel like number 9 was easier to get what was going on. So this happens all after that cool Gray Malkin bit. The rescue attempt happened. They did actually successfully extricate key bits of each of those teams. The problem is that those teams still aren't. They don't have the same goals. They're not trying to do the same thing. There's real trouble still brewing for all the X-Men. I'm trying to make sure that I'm not going to spoil anything for you guys. It really is Magneto coming to grips with the fact that he doesn't have the same kind of level of power. That they're saying he could die at any minute. But this basically focuses in on this. I don't know who one is. It's like O with a little asterisk, N with an asterisk, E with an asterisk. It's like this. It's not a person. It's a group of some sort, which I was kind of confused about. I'm sure it has to have been introduced at some point, but they've got a new team here that they've put together. It's Boom Boom, Jesse Bedlam, King Bedlam, Locust, and Phantom X. These guys are 100% trouble.
Wait, Phantom X hasn't been around in a minute.
True. Very true.
Ooh.
But the cool thing is, and they've the name of their group is the Hellions, just so that you know. And they may have been a group before, but I don't remember. I remember the name Hellions, but I don't remember that group.
Is this a good jump in issue, Miss Jen? Because if Phantom X is back, I want to jump in.
This is an okay one. I did not like this issue as much as I liked number 9. Number 9 got me all hyped, but this is the reason why. I'm going to be honest with you guys. Like, I am a huge not fan of Cyclops, and he has a huge role in this part. And it's the way they've got his like visor drawn is really squared off. You just dug the cover. I mean, it is a cover.
Trolling us.
It's cover A, and it's Stegman, so I'm not mad at the art. The art's really great. But yeah, I know that I'm going to continue on with the series because I love Jed MacKay's stuff. He always gives me a payoff. But I'll say this issue specifically, other than making the new Hellions team, which looks really dope, I could have skipped it because it was too much Scott. But he like holds stuff over them like, hey, if you come after me, just know that probably my girlfriend, the Phoenix, who's off planet, will come back and destroy everything. She'll be pissed off to no end. So he's using her as this like who uses the Phoenix as a pawn. Like, anyway. It just reinforces the fact that I hate him.
There's a famous Scott from reality TV that I have started to associate Cyclops with, and it makes it funnier to me.
Thanks, Preston.
Yeah, thanks, Preston. That's good knowledge, man. All right, y'all. I'm going to say this now, and I was going to save it for after another book, but there are a number of books that are out this week where if you go to Comics for Escapism, you're going to wind up running from this book going, too real, man, too real. And this is actually one of them. And I'm going to say it, and it's going to sound like I'm being like super like, I'm not making a political statement, but it's going to sound like I am. This book is the definition of eat the rich. This is a world that worldwide television events happen where the richest of the rich among us are forced to fight to the death, and the loser's money is distributed amongst everyone else. And these are people with billions of dollars, like lots and lots of money. And the organization that hosts these fights gives them an opportunity to divest. And when they don't, are you not entertained? Like, they come out in the full, like, this is Sparta, you know, this is gladiator kind of regalia, and they have to battle. And the world watches and bets and all this kind of stuff. And there are some of them that are really good at these battles. And there are some of them that are really not. And in this issue, we meet the most decorated battler ever. And a pharma bro. And it should be no secret who the people hate. And who they love. And so this book is, in some way, a very strong political statement about wealth disparity and about the way we as people look at the ultra wealthy. But at the same time, if you can put that aside, this book is just a straight up awesome gore fest. Like the art, Patrick Horvath writing and drawing. The art is gorgeous. The cover is unique and interesting. The way the story is presented is truly unique and interesting. But again, this is one of those that if you don't want your comics to have any kind of political message or any kind of stance or any kind of realism that maybe is somewhat relatable. Yes, this is the guy who also did Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, which is why we question whether or not he's okay. This book is not for you. If you are just looking for something that is, again, I've been reading comics for 35 years, right? 30 years or so. This is not a story. This is not a concept I've seen done much. And the way it's presented is unique. So this is a super fun one for me, even if it is one of those things where I was looking for a little bit of an escapism today, and I did not find it here.
Okay. This is an interesting book because it, on the very front page, it says that there's many multiple stories in it. So I read the first one, which ends up being very long. So the other ones must be shorter, although it is a very thick book. And I didn't read the background for it, for whether this is supposed to be launches into new storylines for all these characters, or if it's just meant to be, here's a snippet of life for them that we may not have fit into the big books. But the one I read focuses in on, I think her name is Santa Staros, which is the one down at the very bottom left. And then Doc Afra, which is up there at the top right. They are focused on a heist that they're trying to do in the middle of the Emperor's inauguration. So the Emperor's like asked for bunches of like very expensive arts to be brought for his for the inauguration, and I think it, you know, like it makes it almost sound like you were like strongly advised that they should bring these things because they're not his. There's some stuff in his personal collection, but also during this heist planning, there are two. I think they're bounty hunters that are after the Doc. So there's that complexity, and then there is. So the guy with the mask on there that's above Santa, that's kind of a cool twist of a storyline that it's also happening all at the same time. And I thought it was really great. I have never read any of the Doc Afra books, so I didn't know anything about that character. I haven't read anything with Santa. I haven't read anything with the rest of those characters. And as far as I know, maybe those bounty hunters are brand new. Maybe they've not been in anything yet. Maybe this is their introduction. But I found it to be really fun to read. And I am not a normal Star Wars comic book reader. I like take all that content in visually. So
this is a celebration of 10 years of Star Wars at Marvel.
Oh, okay.
So it's the three most influential Star Wars writers from that time, each doing a story. So there's a Charles Soule story, a Jason Aaron, and a Kieran Gillen story. Art on the Charles Soule is Ramon Rosanas. Art on the Jason Aaron is Leonard Kirk, and art on the Kieran Gillen is Salvador Espin. These characters are bringing back, or these art writers are bringing back characters from their historic runs on Star Wars.
Okay, cool. It sounded like they knew them very well. Like it wasn't their first foray into them.
Well, and like, didn't Charles Soule create Dr. Afra? Like,
I think it
was an original creation.
That's true.
So, okay.
So jealous. I don't have these.
I almost told Jay to make sure to grab the Mark Spears cover because it's my favorite cover of this book.
It's so good.
I am not a fan of the Silverhawks.
Historically or today?
Yes.
Okay.
They were on before I was born or cognizant of what television was.
But they're music-y. Can't believe you didn't just like glom onto them later.
Oh, well, that's the thing. And then they never really came back around. It didn't like Gem and the Holograms where we got to see it again. or, you know, some of these other cartoon shows that reran on Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon or whatever when I was young. So Silverhawks is something I completely missed. I think that lack of knowledge influenced my read of this book.
It's possible.
I thought the story that Ed told and the art that George Cambadassis did was incredible. But I don't get it. Like, yes, this is the same universe as Thundercats, but also like Silverhawks was a Rankin and Bass production. So like on some level we're like, hey, is this happening in the same place as A Year Without Santa Claus? But again, it just like it missed me in a way that I think influenced my read of this book. So what I would like to see happen, and I'm going to keep reading it because it was such an interesting story. I had to treat these all as new characters, right? As a completely new jump off of a whole new universe when it's not. It's licensed IP. It's stuff that people know and that there's an expectation for. So again, that made it a little tricky. My goal is to go back and try and find Silverhawks and watch some and kind of get a knowledge before issue 2. But I will keep reading it because even if you take out the nostalgia grab that is the Silverhawks, this was an interesting book. It was an interesting concept. Like, I could have seen this story being replaced by, yeah, it is kind of unfortunate placement there, EJB. I feel like I should text Nick. Anyway, but if you take all of the nostalgia out, it's still an interesting story. And you could swap in my opinion, you could swap in a more diverse, more built out Barbarella universe, a more diverse, built out like John Carter, Warlord of Mars kind of thing. And this story would still be good. So it doesn't need Silverhawks to be good. Whereas like maybe the Thundercats story kind of needs the Thundercats in order for it to be an interesting story. This does not need that. So just putting that Silverhawks skin on it can only add to the storytelling. So my goal is to go to school on Silverhawks.
The thing you need to know about Silverhawks is the action figures were really hard to keep nice because they were all chromed up. So if you played with them for more than 30 seconds, they got all scratched up.
No. I have chrome wheels on my car. I get that. This is one that I'm jealous of.
Well, okay, so I feel like I did some kind of small review of it when they sent us a full-length ash can at one point. And when I read this again, I was like, oh yes, I did read this and I really did enjoy it. Okay, so how to explain this? This book, well, first of all, it's Rick Remender, so you know it's going to be good fantasy. But, okay, so these weird clown carnival-looking creatures here, you see them at the very beginning of the book. They're in a town where the town has been kind of cut off. No one's been able to reach anybody in the town, and all of like the trade with the town has been stopped. There's no ships going in and out of the harbor. They don't know what's going on in there. It's complete mystery to them. It just went silent. And then as soon as they kind of introduce that part and you get to see these kind of like weird creature people there, it jumps to this really fun, like really long, drawn out following of this one character. So there are 4 sisters, all named after the seasons. So spring, autumn, whatever. And you get to meet one of them who just happens to be a mail carrier. And she's got a piece of mail that's actually addressed to her, but it keeps trying to fly away from her. So it's just like this really fun, like those things where it's like follow the leaf as it goes through the entire town. This was instead a letter. And you get from that this really cool introduction to how the townspeople interact with her, which I guess she's kind of a klutz and people don't want her around any of their stuff. It's very clear. So it's all to say that the book is really gorgeous and gets you to the point where she actually gets to open the letter, which is the point of the whole book. So there's a big thing that's written in the letter from one of the other sisters, which gets you started. So it's really great, all great art. I'm super intrigued. Can't even tell you what kind of genre to put this in. It feels very scary, like, I don't know, Ice Cream Man or something's going on that's super spook. So maybe for fans of Ice Cream Man or Deviant, or there's no blood or anything in this one yet, but it has a huge creep factor that something really sinister is going on with these things that look really happy.
Okay. I want to love this book. I'm going to preface my review of this book by saying I was at the ER with my business partner until 5 a.m. this morning, and then Jay and I talked on the phone from the time I dropped them off until I got home, because Jay was the only person I knew who was awake, who could keep me awake while I drove home. I got very little sleep. My review of this book was I didn't have enough sleep or enough drugs to make it make sense. That said, this book has all the bits that if I were in a headspace other than where I am, I would be head over heels with. You have White Tiger, who is like, well, you see him. That's the White Tiger. Has a lot of those like Panthera or other like Catman with the giant claws kind of battling things going for it. And it's a Zenescope book, so the art is just off the charts great. It's a beautiful book. There's just the right amount of gore. There's just the right amount of violence. There's just the right amount of blood. But I couldn't make heads or tails of the story today. That said, I'm going to go back and reread this tonight or tomorrow once I've slept and kind of spend some more time with it, because, again, there is no reason not to go buy this book. If you're basing your purchase of this book on my review, don't. Go buy this book anyway. Like, because I am unable to do my job in this instance with this book. But again, it kind of has that man goat and a bunny man kind of feel, except it more realistic feeling. More like this could happen. And again, White Tiger, having been a Marvel character, kind of was the reason I got into this. But everything about this seems very good, very interesting. And the whole Claws, Paws, and Outlaws thing, it definitely has a little bit of a Tombstone or Good, the Bad, and the Ugly sort of vibe to the storytelling. But if the story had been based about cowboys, like, it would have made a lot more sense. But instead, it's about a cat man.
I just have to say, look at that. Whoever colored this, that the light play as light coming through the trees.
Whole book's like this.
It's just like the way it's offset onto the ground. I just can't. So pretty.
Steve Wagner, Noise Wrangler, what's up, buddy? Yeah, no, the whole book is like this. The whole book looks like this cover. It's gorgeous. Again, I just need more time to read it with better brain. Just as a reminder, guys, 3 super chats of any value unlocks the new content that Jay and I will be doing tomorrow night at 9 o'clock Eastern, because Jay reminded me, in place of 360 Comics. We'll be doing Kyle and Jay Q&A. So hit me up, or, hit up the super chat goal.
Okay, there are 2 Lex Luthor books this week. This one takes off from the pages of regular Superman and the All-In Absolute Power storyline, in which Lex comes back from all of that, having no recollection of really kind of like who he was before, as pertains to being kind of like a really bad man, or his intelligence level, or any of those things. So he's living with the whole like everyone hates him, but he doesn't remember why. He understands their hate, but he doesn't understand, like, he can't take, he's accepted, like, I must deserve it. But so they're trying to help him, but also he keeps asking them, like, do you really want me to remember? It sounds like I was really horrible. But Superman keeps telling him, is like, but you were trying to change. Like, you changed multiple times. You were trying to make a change. We've seen that you can be good. So that's what our hope is. So this is kind of a great lead into the next Superman issue. You can kind of see the way this storyline goes. It has a very cool music aspect to it that ties in something that Lex did as a kid, that actually did interact with Superman in a way that I don't think that corner of the universe for those two characters have touched before. I could be wrong, but it feels like it's kind of like new territory, which was really cool and special.
This book is getting more and more Batcrap crazy. And I love it for that. So if you remember String issues 1 and 2, our main character here can see blue and black strings emanating from people. Blue means that the people who have the strings attached to each other have doinked. I'm going to say doinked because we can't say the other words on the internet. Black strings means that they either are going to be unalived or have unalived someone. And at the end of issue 2, the detective Luke and our main character wind up back at her apartment, and there's a dude in a ski mask. So the first half of this book is just this action sequence where they're battling Ski Mask Bro. And the second half is them kind of going out trying to solve who this person was. And in the meantime, one of the cases that she's been working on the whole time is the case of a porn star's murdered dog, which she solves without the use of the strings, with just her own cunning, which adds a whole level to this that I think is great, right? Like, you don't necessarily need strings to solve murders or to solve, who's sleeping with who. You can just use your own guile. And so she does, and it's very interesting, and it's a great kind of broadening of the storyline. And remember, this main character has clients other than the police. So you see some of that work as well, and the risks that this person is constantly taking, despite knowing that they're likely going to kill or be killed by someone. So that's kind of what this issue is. I can't really go into too much more detail because super spoilers. But also, we've got a lot of books left to cover here, 6 books left to cover, and not a lot of time to do it in. So I don't want to talk too long about in issue 3 on this one.
Cool. Oh, okay. So this is multiple stories. Also, I decided to read the one by, I'm going to make sure I get the right person here. By, hold on, please. Vita Alea. Which focuses in on Signal. I don't know if you guys remember Signal, one of the characters that was introduced, I believe, in the new DCU. I think that was called. Who is the character on the bottom right, who is a young person, and their interaction with Batman, but I believe it's the Tim Fox Batman, or maybe the I Am Batman one, which is that the same person? I did not read I Am Batman, so I don't know who that is. So anyway, those two people interact. This is a kind of a Signal showing up, that Batman being super pissed off at them for reasons that are just like, great, now I got to take care of this kid. And it turns into a really sweet story where they do reconcile with each other and then challenge each other to playing, I think it's hearts or spades, which is kind of fun. So it starts a kind of a cool interaction between those characters. They reconcile, their differences, but also realize that they, even though they might not need each other, that they do need to respect each other and give each other, props for what they can do. And maybe, if they're in the same city, have to do stuff together. So there's a bunch of stories in here that look really great. It's part of Black History Month.
This was the other book that I was going to say maybe a little too real for today's day and age. The elevator pitch on this had to be Maniac of New York meets Thanos was right. There's a massive overpopulation boom in New York, and the only thing they can do to quell it is to have anonymous random murder. So the government hires some people to do this. And then when they underfund it, don't handle it correctly, turns out that this supposedly painless way of handling this is anything but. All of those people that have been hired walk off the job. So instead, they hire every psycho killer they can find. And what happens is random trains wind up going to the end of the line with people on them. Again, all kind of people. And you can guess from the title what happens. We're following a character who's a writer who's been going through some stuff, man. A divorce, teenage daughter acting out, moving in with her new fiance, having her writing kind of denied. Hugs and snuggles. With a crowbar. Having like her writing turned down for publication, stuff like that. She's going through some stuff. And she's out of money. And she's supposed to have a transfer from her fiance, and it doesn't come through, and she has to go downtown. Her only option is to walk a really long way or take the train. And there had just been a kill train the night before, so the odds of there being another one are slim. Unless they're not.
None?
Huh?
But not none?
Right, is a non-zero number. Non-zero.
Non-zero, so love it.
So that's kind of what this book is. I think this is interesting, but again, this is one of those. If you're looking for escapism, maybe don't. This is escapism.
Great. Totally escapism.
Right.
This is another anthology. I was chock full of anthologies, which. It's more bang for your buck. And if you don't like one of those stories, the chances you'll like other ones in it. So this is fun. It's DC's Lex in the City, which is a play off of Sex and the City. And this one obviously is meant for maybe more Valentine's crowd or leaning in crowd. This is Love Sweeps the DCU. So the first story, I only read the first two. The first story is a story about Trish Q, who I guess is like the social blog person, maybe, of the paper. And she's kind of up and coming and gets an interview with Lex, which is kind of an interesting thing because when she first meets him at some kind of industry party, he's very aloof and whatever. And something about her catches his, I don't know if he has romantic feelings for her, but she just seems like a challenge maybe. So it's just a fun interaction between them, which I really liked, which leaves it on kind of like an end point that like, maybe there is actually something there, despite the fact that they're from such disparate worlds. And he's a bad guy. And the second one is really cute. It's Harley, the day of Valentine's, realizing she has forgotten to get something for Ivy because Harley is not an organized person. And it's her trying to figure out what she wants to do that's special enough for Ivy. So it's a bunch of failures, and what ends up happening is really special. but kind of accidentally, and you get to see another character from that universe interact in a way that's very sweet when they probably shouldn't be sweet about it. But I loved it. This is a big square bound prestige format book series, and I kind of wish I had more time to read more of them. But this is great for, well, it's not, Kyle is tired. Yes, Kyle is definitely tired. So
yes,
recommend. School.
Just in another little sort of tie into this one. This is from the mind of Cena Grace.
Oh, that's right. The first one is Cena. Yep.
So remember, well, this whole thing was Cena's idea.
Really?
So yes, just
Awesome.
know that like the whole driving behind this Lex in the City thing was Cena Grace, and their sort of what's the word for obsession with doing these Valentine's Day books. There is a Sozamakia variant that is Thirst Trap Nightwing, for those of you who may be into such things.
There's many kissings in here.
All right. We're getting closer to knowing who the blank is. That is my review of this book. More and more killings, more and more the blank, but we're getting more clues. And at the same time, Fangs is starting to play along because even Fangs is worried about the blank. So if you haven't been reading the first 7 issues, get the trade of Dick Tracy and get caught up, because the last 2 issues, 6 and 7, are just so interesting because of the reintroduction of the blank and the way they're handling the blank. So just a reminder, guys, we got like 9 minutes left. We get 3 super chats of any value. We'll get unlock Kyle and Jay's Q&A tomorrow night at 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central, in the old 360 comic slot after Triple B's live is over, where Jay and I will be hanging out, talking about comic headlines and answering your questions.
All right. In case you did not know, Wade has been dead, and his daughter has taken over the mantle of Deadpool. So in the last issue, she, I don't know if I can say quite literally went to hell, but anyway, she went to hell, had interaction with her dead mother in order to, and there was some kind of deal that was made, which she keeps on having nightmares about it because she can't remember what it is, but she knows there is a price to be paid for bringing Wade back. Wade came back without the same amount of healing factor, so he, should not be stepping in front of swords to have his arms cut off because he may not recover from such a thing. He has some small healing factor, so he's back and taken over the business that he started before he left. And it's a weird ragtag group of mercs being hired for merking. He's having a hard time getting jobs. So it means he has to be open to some pretty questionable jobs for hits. The very last page of this book will wreck you because he has taken a job to kill somebody that should not be killed. It's going to be interesting. Good luck, Wade, because I think you might have forgotten something about him.
All right. I don't know if this is the last issue of Kosher Mafia or not, but it certainly feels like it is. You kind of start getting bows tied around certain things and starting to understand why certain things have happened the way they've happened. And I will say, and this is going to be a really short review because it is the 5th issue of a series. Trade will be out soon. David Hazen has done an incredible job of sort of recreating a real time in American history where you had organizations like Murder Incorporated and the Italian crime families and other crime families working together to sort of keep what was happening in late 1930s, early 1940s Germany. Thank you, Make Two more. In the next 5 minutes or so, what was happening in late 1930s, early 1940s Germany from happening here. And that is a very interesting thing. And the way we find in this book it happens in paperwork, which is a great way to sort of tie this up, right? Great way to sort of start pushing this forward. So I am in love with this book. I don't want to go too much into the details because I feel like there could still be more of this story. But at the same time, if this really is it coming to the end of Kosher Mafia, this has been a well-written, well-thought-out book that my hope is will introduce people to a very interesting part of American history, especially if you're into organized crime. So that in and of itself is worth being looked into. If you don't know about some of the different... Hey, Bat Signal, thank you very much, Bat Signal. We're going to count the super sticker. We're down to one. We need one super chat or one super sticker here before the end of the hour to unlock the new content tomorrow night at 9 o'clock featuring Jay and I, Kyle and Jay's Q&A. But anyway, so again, Murder Incorporated and some of these organizations that actually did exist in real life. The Kosher Nostra, as it were. Kosher Mafia. And then again, the Italian crime families, which we all know about. But the German crime families and the Polish crime families and the crime families that are here that I still can't talk about because they still exist where I live. Those kind of things are real things that you can, if this book sparks your interest, you can actually go into a deep dive into American history that you might not have otherwise noticed. So make sure you check that out. Very, very cool story. Very, very interesting take. And I am in love with this series. So I'm coming over to check on our goal.
So I want to also remind everybody, just because of still some shipping difficulties and Diamond working their way through all the chaos of working through their bankruptcy, the books are still arriving to stores. They're just late. They have been late since Christmas. So I know that ours are look to be, we have a package coming tomorrow, but also we just got last week's books. So just be kind to your LCS. They're not hiding your Mark Spears variants of Silverhawks in their, pockets. They're not hiding your Mark Spears Monsters #3s in their back pockets. They just don't have them yet. So be sweet. Let them know you want them. Prepay for them or something.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I will end the show the way we normally end the show. What just happened? Make two. You did another one.
You're overachieving today.
Make two is an overachiever. Absolutely. All right. New show tomorrow night at 9 o'clock. I will get it scheduled up. Kyle and Jay's Q&A. Be watching for information about that on our social media tomorrow. In the meantime, if you don't have a local comic shop and you need one, head over to comicshoplocator.com while it still exists, because that's one of the things that's up in the air. Head over to comicshoplocator.com and type in the numbers of the area where you are, and it will tell you where to find comic shops nearby to you. And then give them a call. Be like, hi, I would like to come in. I want to make sure everything is ready to go, that you guys are okay, that you got your books, everything. We know things are cool, and I don't want to add to your stress, but I do want to come in and spend money with you. And then go spend money with them. And then stay tuned immediately after this show, unless Jay is tagging. I see Jay tagging people in things here. What is happening? We should have a new show immediately following us. Welcome to Wonderland with Rich Davis from Wonderland Comics, where they will be singing the new books that are out tomorrow. So you'll be able to pick up some of the books we talked about tonight immediately following this show over on that show. So thank you to everybody who super chatted. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. We'll give you more information about that show later today and tomorrow. But in the meantime, stay tuned for everything else. Miss Jen had to leave. We will talk to you guys next time.
Join the party.